My goodness, my goodness. I want to welcome you to Dream Chasers Radio with me, your host, YaYa Diamond. What's up, peoples? How you doing? It is a beautiful day, and I'm so very excited to have my next guest on the show today. You guys know I have a special place in my heart for authors. Yes, authors. And this author is just, oh my gosh, this is an amazing thing. How It All Ends is available right now, free on Amazon Kindle, and we're going to put the link in the description box below so it'll be easy for you guys to find that. So let's go ahead and talk to Mr. Richard Ruling. Welcome to the show.
My privilege to be with you, Yara. I'm looking forward to this all day, actually for a month. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you. So I want to, first of all, I love to go back into history and find out about the author and then what led you to write this book.
Well, uh, truthfully, I was a Christian. I went to a Bible college. I liked what David Livingston said. God only had one son, but he made him a medical missionary. So I took medicine. And I was planning to go to Africa, but things didn't work out. The dean liked me, and he encouraged me to take some further training, internal medicine, cardiology, come back and teach, train other missionaries. They wanted to have a program that way. And so that appealed, and I did that for 4 years, taught before going into private practice when there was a change in administration. I believe I know more about health than 99% of doctors, and I believe I know more about Bible prophecy because of my Bible background and attending conferences. Back in 1986 was the first one, than 99% of preachers. Most of them just wanting to get a smooth sermon for Sunday, but think what's coming is not smooth. So anyway, get ready.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
Oh wow.
yeah.
Oh wow. So your experience has led you up to this point of writing this book. Did you previously write another book before this one?
Oh yes, I've written a dozen, and it's a learning experience curve for me. When you take medicine, I hated English and didn't like composition, so it's been not as easy. But anyway, I'm getting there. I hope. Anyway, the story is compelling. The information is compelling. It's just that my ability to put it into words is not the greatest. But anyway, God sometimes has to work with the willing, and not it's the availability, not the ability, that he counts on.
That's right. You're right. You're right. And so we get a book, and the book, as long as you understand what it says and what it's trying to, the point it's trying to get across, it really doesn't matter.
Good.
Yeah,
Thank you.
definitely. So, I mean, okay, so a lot of people have seen that movie with Charleston Heston, the Ten Commandments, right?
Yes.
And I'm seeing how the U.S. is like Egypt, like the trailer, right? Is
Uh,
enslaved in Israel, and they threw their babies in the river. Tell me about this and that parallel that you're comparing it to in the book.
well, actually, there are half a dozen parallels. I'll just quickly summarize. Egypt at that time was one of the greatest nations in the world. And when Babylon, Medo, Persia, Greece, or Rome wanted to be conquerors, they had to go down through the Holy Land to fight Egypt, the king of the south. Is king of the north, king of the south in Daniel 11th chapter. But it was abusive of the Holy Land because the soldiers would take their food, take their girls, whatever, wives, bad. And so anyway, I'm seeing, just as Egypt was greatest nation then, we're a great nation, America. And just as Israel went into Egypt for food, pioneers came for the bread of life. In the old world, the Bible was a banned book by the papacy. If you hid it and they found a Bible, you could be burned at the stake. So they wanted freedom in the New World, and all of these things. I would say, coming for food. America has fed people that were hungry, other countries as well. And with enslaving Israel, we have in America enslaved most people in negative lifestyles with alcohol, tobacco. A lot of people are addicted to caffeine, drugs. Medical care is really a form of bondage. I can say that as a retired physician. If you have to go to a doctor every month and get a blood test or something else, and a prescription and those prescriptions are dangerous, in many cases, they can cause illness or even death. And I could go into more, but some of it's in my book, and people will enjoy the book better if I don't spill all the beans right here. But I went through Congress with medical literature to prove that medical care is #1 cause of death until one senator said, you know, you're wasting your time. They own us. Speaking of donations to their reelection. And so, yes, they voted for the Obamacare, affordable care, and all this, you know, but really, 20,000 pages of medical care is bondage. In fact, Ben Carson said it's the worst thing since slavery. You know,
Mm.
so anyway, I would just say we've done the bondage thing in America, and Israel had their babies thrown in the river by Egypt, and we've thrown 63 million babies in the trash can since Roe v. Wade. So it's God has to punish us, you know, if He's going to be fair in judgment. So
Wow.
we're on the road, really, and to see it happening, I believe we're not far. But go ahead. I don't want to be
Wow.
talking. Yeah.
So I have to go ahead and confirm this because we're going to be putting this up on YouTube and a lot of different places where you have to be a medical professional or you've had to had your degree. So let's talk about that really quick so that we can get that out of the way in the technicalities.
Okay. I was board certified in internal medicine, and about half the people that take the boards don't pass. So it's a feather in my cap to be able to have had that before teaching at Loma Linda, and I had a year of a cardiology fellowship. But I'm also seeing that pharmacology is a bad situation. The dean had been PhD in pharmacology, head of the pharmacology department before he took his doctor of public health. He shared a statement with me from Drill's textbook of pharmacology, which says that um, drug drug action always represents artificial interference with the natural functioning of the organism. In the widest sense of the word, every drug is by definition a poison. Pharmacology and toxicology are one, and the art of medicine is to use these poisons beneficially. Now, that's a lot of oxymoron double talk, really. But the fact is that the body is designed for self-healing. Cuts, burns, and bruises heal. And I have a video in my book on how it all ends, where people can click the link and get a video by Cleveland Clinic. It has Cleveland Clinic's cardiologist, Dr. Esselstyn, in it, and he's telling how most people can reverse their disease processes, diabetes, blood pressure, cholesterol, and so on, without prescription drugs. And I've done that most of my life. I've only had one. I grew up kind of sickly. I would get a shot every other winter from my dad, who was a doctor, because I liked ice cream and other things that weren't the best. But I changed my diet in high school and became a vegetarian, actually. And so I was healthy, and I'm 82 in great health now. But I can see that it's not based on the drugs we get. It's the food that we put. What we put in our mouth is the final common pathway. Whether we smoke, drink, or what we eat, it can be a problem.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, and I concur. What do you say about vitamins? I mean, and like supplementing.
I don't mind that. In fact, I do too. You know, I try to get multivitamins with minerals, because minerals are the things that might not be in the soil, etc. So I would just say do that. But there's enough to cover in our brief time that I don't want to stay long on the health
No, of
situation.
course
People can
not.
get it. Yeah,
Of course not. And I know that that would be one question that people would ask. So I wanted to get that
yeah.
out the way. But getting back to the book, getting back to how it all ends, it says here that God took Israel from Egypt to a covenant to be his kingdom. And he also said, I am married to you in Jeremiah 3:14. This helps Christians understand Christ's wedding parables. They are not about a quick rapture, but to heaven as millions believe. What do you say about that? Because I know that this is something that we and I really, really wanted to know about.
Well, it says in Ecclesiastes 3:15, New English Bible version, that what is to come has been already, and God summons each event back in its turn. And there's no protocol for having a rapture already, except for Elijah, who did it only after he had confronted false worship. And we're going to come to a time when you can't buy or sell without it. We have to confront that. We're not ready for a rapture at the beginning of everything. The wedding parable is about a covenant. And when God made a covenant in Exodus 34, verse 10 and 11, he says, behold, I make a covenant with you, and it's a terrible thing I'm going to do with you. I'm going to drive out the Canaanite. And he provided that promised land for Israel without them risking their lives. Jericho, the walls fell down, etc. So I would just say, we need the covenant for God's protection in our time. He will do it. In my opinion, he's going to treat us equally well. But God has a provision for us, and I just think that it's we're not hearing it from the pulpit. We're just hearing easy stuff. Just all you need is a relationship with Jesus and so on. Well, Jesus said, man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word of God. Well, I'm not claiming to know every word, but I have been looking at prophecy for a long time, and it's a little deeper than we are. So
Yeah.
anyway, I just think we need to understand more in order to be ready, because in the wedding parable of Matthew 25, there were 10 women going to a wedding, and 5 were wise, but even they were asleep with their lights out at first. And I think America, we need to wake up and get our lights on. But people that aren't ready when things come down, they won't get into the wedding somehow.
Hmm. Hmm. It says, I have notes here. I'm sorry. I'm looking at the notes, but it says here that no man knows the day, that Christ said that no man knows the day, and it'll be like in the days of Noah. What are we missing?
Well, we're missing his but, okay, in the sense of no man knows the day or hour, but as the days of Noah. It will be as the days of Noah. And actually, that's just the first of 6 parables that all have second Passover timing. The flood came with Passover timing, but in the second spring month, before a 9/11 provision. Okay, 9/11 in Numbers 9, verse 10 and 11. If you were in a journey, a long journey, and you couldn't get back to Jerusalem in time for Passover, you were not excused. Passover meant judgment, and so they were to keep it a month later. Okay, and that's how he ended with the 10 virgins parable. He says, watch, you don't understand. And by the way, the word watch is a clue for Passover. It was the only night in the year they were to watch. Okay, we think, stare at the sky. No, I don't think so. Okay, you would hear on the radio before you could stare at the sky. But watch, that comes from Gregorio, means be awake. And Christ said that on his last night. He said, watch with me. Couldn't you watch 1 hour? That was the eve of Passover. Okay, we're just so not literate, well, understanding those feast days that the Jews had, but they were designed to teach the people that at the time appointed, one would come to whom that ceremony pointed. And Passover was about judgment. That's when he judged in Egypt. He executed the firstborn because the Israelite babies had been thrown in the river, etc. Okay, payback, because Pharaoh wouldn't let them go.
Hmm. Wow. Wow.
And
You went
also,
deep.
let me just add, I said each of 6 parables. After as the days of Noah, the next parable begins, then shall 2 be in the field. Then means same time, if you follow what I'm saying. There's an evil servant that begins to smite his fellow servants. Then it's like the 10 virgins. And the 10 virgins are like the man traveling to a far country. It's a delayed, it's second month. And specifically, you might find this interesting also, the lead in to the events that are going to come, like Zechariah 14, verse 1 and 2, it says the day of the Lord comes. The day of the Lord is the end time extension of night of the Lord in Egypt. God said, I will execute judgment. And in verse 42, he said, this is the night of the Lord. But as day follows night, end times are going to be bigger than what happened in Egypt. It may be worldwide. And day of the Lord is, it says in Joel 2, verse 1 and 2, is a day of darkness. If you were to Google dark day, you would discover that May 19, 1780 was a dark day, unexplainably dark. New Englanders thought Christ was coming, but he didn't come. And 200 years later, we find another dark day when Mount St. Helens erupted. You're young enough maybe that you don't remember Mount St. Helens, because it was in May 19 in 1780. It erupted the night before. The wind carried the ashes overnight to darken 3 northwestern states. It is a dark day for them. And I think only God can control that. And he was marking our Gregorian papal calendar to be the day that it turns out to be, coincidentally, this year is unique. Not any time in the past 5 years or the coming decade, but it's the day that Noah entered the ark.
Oh
And
my God.
when he went into the ark, he invited others, but they didn't want to look stupid. They thought Noah's crazy because it had never rained. The scientists said it can't rain in his day. Okay, well today the scientists are on my side. They see a crescendo of earthquake activity around the Pacific Ring, and they know that calamity is coming to California. It can come anytime, they say, even tomorrow. I don't think tomorrow. I think on God has appointed times of judgment, and look out for the week of May 19. That's when Noah entered. The flood came a week later, actually. It was testing the people outside to see what they would do, and they were making a great celebration until all of a sudden it started raining. And then it was let me in, Noah. But anyway, my point is that we are coming to a time, and I don't know whether it will be a literal dark day too. I heard a Homeland Security Deputy Director, Jonathan Hollerman, say he'd studied survival, and he was amazed that we haven't had an EMP attack on our power grid to knock out the electricity. An explosion at high altitude, middle of America, could wipe out our transformers coast to coast, and truckers couldn't have fuel to bring their food to cities. And a year later, about 10% would be alive in cities.
Mm.
Awesome statement. And I don't know whether that is for real that's going to happen with our dark day, but May 19 is coming up, and it's an anniversary date, but it's unique for the day that Noah entered the ark this year, and not next year, not another year past.
Wow. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. So, I mean, so what should people do?
Well, I believe that I've heard people talking about survival, and I believe that the cities are a death trap. That's one physician told me that it's a death trap to be in a city, because martial law. If in Hurricane Katrina, people that didn't leave were really stuck. If they tried to cross the bridge to get out, men with guns turned them back in Hurricane Katrina. And they're going to take you to a FEMA camp to screen you and see, are you in favor of New World Order and all this? Well, I have to be honest to say, no, I'm not. Well, I don't think I'd leave I don't would think I would leave alive, frankly. We're getting down to stuff. Crazy stuff is happening. But I say get out of the city, take a vacation. If you got a week's vacation time coming, and take it on May 19 and wait a week to see if what's going to happen.
My goodness. Wow. Wow. So, okay. So, all right. So I wanted to get into 9/11 because I mean, literally speaking, we're talking about May 19th, but what about 9/11?
Okay. 9/11 is Christ's warning in the book of Numbers, chapter 9, verse 10 and 11, that provides for Passover the month later. Okay. As the days of Noah, it was in the second spring month. And like the wedding parable, when he said, watch, you don't understand. It's like a man traveling to a far country. Travel also allowed for, if you came back late for Passover, keep it the next month. You're not excused from observing it, because it's about our time of judgment.
Wow. There's just so much to talk about.
Well, there really is, and thank you for the opportunity. I'm seeing that there's a lot of relevance, and we have earned it as far as. And one more thing, Roe v. Wade has killed 63 million babies, and it was in 1973. 2023 is 50 years later. That's the Jubilee event, Jubilee year. Okay. I thought it was going to be last spring, and I was wrong, disappointed. But I learned afterwards, or it came into focus, that the year in the Bible does not begin in January and end in December. It begins in spring, the month of Passover, and it goes to this coming Passover, okay,
Yeah.
month. So, and during this year, Hamas has done the very thing that the Bible shows is going to happen before big trouble comes. They've attacked Israel, and it says in Zechariah 14, day of the Lord comes, and nations are gathered against Jerusalem. Houses rifled, women ravished, half the city goes into captivity. And if they do that, I believe they're going to celebrate their mosque and Quran, which says Allah has no son. Well, that's a challenge to Christ. He is the Lion of Judah in Revelation 5:5. And as the Lion of Judah, he has to protect Judah, and he will roar. Okay, it says the Lord will roar. This is Joel 3:16. The Lord will roar from Jerusalem, the heavens and earth shake. Okay, and if the heavens and earth are going to shake, I believe it's going to be a big deal. And the San Andreas Fault, where I took my medical studies at the foot of it almost, is going to be impacted. And there's more in my book, but I don't know how much time we have left. But I wanted to cover as much as possible.
You know, hmm, I'm thinking of what we could say because okay, so I'm thinking, okay, there's just so much. There's just so you have the captivity, you have the dark day, you have um the whole fall of the cities, right? You got
Yes.
a a lot. Okay, what about a mega quake?
Well, I believe the scientists are saying that uh, the San Andreas is 80 years overdue. And
Mm,
it could happen anytime, even tomorrow. I just don't think it can happen tomorrow. I think God has appointed times for this. And so, yes, in Noah's day, the scientists said it can't rain, it has never rained. But the scientists are on my side now, okay? And yet our inertia we're bombarded by so many things, and mostly conventional wisdom is good most of the time. Wait and see, wait and see. But in this case, Christ, if we act on his word, the Bible, I think we're ahead of the game. And I'm seeing that we don't understand the wedding parables. They all imply that we don't get it. The wise, even the wise were asleep with their lights out in Matthew 25, verse 5. In the previous parable of Matthew 22, the king sends his servants to bid people the wedding, and they scorn and ridicule it. I think it's because really the wedding feast is not uh, about uh, steak, cake, and milkshake. It's really about doctrines. Okay, the Christ said, "Beware the leaven of the Pharisees," meaning their doctrines in Matthew 16th chapter, verse 12. And so it's because preachers have leavened the bread. Okay, they make it light, and all you need to know is just know Jesus. Well, Jesus said a few things that we should know, and it's man shall not live by bread only, but by every word. And so let's study it. And I'm seeing topics that have been so much missed out. In fact, I'll give you a couple examples. Um, in Matthew 17:11, it says Elias must first come and restore all things. That's Elijah. And he comes in Malachi 4, 4, and 5. Remember the law of Moses with statutes and judgments. Behold, I send you Elijah. Those statutes and judgments help explain the Ten Commandments. And they, in Ezekiel 20, verse 11 to 24, 7 times you see statutes, judgments, Sabbath, statutes, judgments, Sabbaths. The sevens remind me of Revelation, where there are 7 churches, 7 seals, 7 trumpets, 7 thunders. 7 is God's signature. And I'm seeing that topics that have a sevenfold emphasis fit the covenant, which also has sevens in them. Abraham gave 7 ewe lambs to Abimelech for a water well, okay, in a covenant. And God, when he made a covenant with Israel, he gave him 7 annual holy days or convocations. And the sevens, I understand that in a Jewish wedding, a woman will walk around a man 7 times, watching him to see, inspecting him. The 7 somehow play a role. A sevenfold emphasis marks topics in Revelation 6 that I'm going to just give you an example. When
mhm,
John in Revelation 6:1 heard thunder, uh, it is a link to God's name, because when Christ prayed in John 12, verse 28-9, Father, glorify your name, the people around said it thundered. And in Revelation 14:1, 144,000 have the Father's name in the forehead, and the next verse has thunder. But God's name, you don't know. I don't know. Well, I do, as a matter of fact. And it's the idea is that in the 10 Commandments, 7 times you see the word Lord in all capital letters or God in the capital letters. Translators remove God's name wherever you see those indications of all capital letters. And it was 7 times in the 10 Commandments. So that's one of the topics we need to know. God has a name. It's not Lord. Lord is not the name of God, and God is not the name of Lord. He has a name. It's called the Tetragrammaton in Jewish literature. Tetra meaning 4, 4 letters. I believe that it represents the 4 members of the Godhead. And people say, what? 4 members? We think Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. Well, uh, Paul says Jerusalem above is the mother of us all. And we think, well, that's a city. But Jerusalem, a city can't be a mother. That's her name. And in the Old Testament, we see that the daughter of Jerusalem slew 185,000 Assyrians when they were about ready to attack Jerusalem. So she has a daughter as well as a son. There's more to tell you about this, but I can't go into it now, right now. But I'm just saying this is not a Catholic situation with a homosexual Godhead, male he. There are no pronouns for he in the New Testament. He and him is not in the Greek. It's just they assume that it's he, okay, but it's not, okay. And in fact, Revelation 1 verse 13 shows one like the Son of Man, girt about the paps with a golden girdle. Who is she? Okay, with the paps, female breasts is mastos, the Greek word. Okay, she is the bride in in chapter 22. Okay, so it's Christ's sister. He says in Song of Solomon 5:2, "Open to me, my sister, my love, my dove, my undefiled." She was the dove that descended on him at his baptism. She gave him words to speak. If he had not yielded to her and done his own thing, maybe with Mary Magdalene, he would have died forever on the cross. But they loved each other. It says in Proverbs 8 verse 30, they were brought up together, daily his delight, rejoicing always before him. Okay, so we're invited as guests to the wedding, and we can be there for him and with him. This is the greatest story never told. They risked their lives and everything for us. And when he died on the cross successfully without sinning, it was a done deal against Satan, and he's going to lose. But he could have lost everything at this point.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. You have explained a lot. I have a lot to digest. I have a
Well,
lot, but
there's another
there's
book.
more.
There's another book called The Earthquake and the Seven Seals, and that topic and others like God's name are explained in that. But right now, how it all ends is the first step, and I'd say get it. It's free today in digital, and
There
then
you
you
go.
can do more. Okay.
There you go. It's free today in digital. We're going to have that information in the description box below, so it'll be easy for you to find it, download it for free. It's a free digital copy that you don't have to worry about paying for. You know, it's How It All Ends by Richard Ruling. I want to thank Richard for being on the show today. Thank you so much for, I mean, you blew my mind.
Well, God is a bigger God than we imagine. Okay, and we think He's gone. One last thing, if I might, and that is that we think, why doesn't He come in here and stop everything? Well, He's about ready to get it. It's going to stop, but He wants to remain anonymous. If He stood over and beat us with a stick, we'd be serving God from fear. So it'll look like maybe coincidence or other things. It might not be from God, but I'd say run toward God when things get bad. Don't run away from Him.
Definitely, definitely. Thank you so much, Richard, for being on the show. And thank you guys so much for tuning in. Don't forget to get your free copy today before it just goes away, because it's not going to be free forever. Okay. All right, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. And don't forget to dare to be different. Until next time, guys. Bye. Wow.